Hey guys, what's going on? Today I'm going to start installing my lip kit, which is a Flow Designs made in Australia lip kit for my Audi S3 here next to me. So today specifically I'm going to be looking at the side skirts first, just because they're here and they look like the easiest ones to start with. I also have the rear spats to go on the rear bumper on the kind of outside corners. But look, by the end of it, it will be the whole lip kit on, so it will be the front lip, the rear lip, the side skirts, and these rear spats as well. So to start, I have got my car up on ramps just on this side so that it tilts the car up this way, and then I've got enough room to get underneath this factory side skirt, just because my car is quite low, as you can see, so that will give me that extra room that I need. So next thing is to get this supported up under there. I've got some of my favorite cans here, I suppose, just to help with that. So I want to point out that bodywork is not my specialty. I've basically done very little to any of my cars. I'm kind of nervous, but I'm also kind of excited to have the final product. I'm just kind of learning as I go. So there's like a little lip at the back there, and that's to line up with the rear section here. So that does make it a little bit easier. Trying to line up, the back of the lip with the back of the OEM side skirt sort of thing. I think that actually makes things quite a lot easier. I've got about 3 or 4 marked out currently. This is slightly terrifying, drilling into my car like this. It's such a nice car. I wasn't expecting to feel like this about doing this, but it's got to be done. Alrighty, let's see how this lines up now. Oh yeah? Not too bad. I can actually see them all. Alright, so now that I've confirmed that those holes are all lining up with the actual lip, I'm going to go ahead and I've got the hardware kit here. I'm going to go ahead and put those 3 bolts in to hold up this end of the lip, and then I can go ahead and mark and drill the rest of the holes the whole way along. Okay, so this has the bigger washer on the bottom side to help hold it up. That goes through the hole. Hopefully I've made it big enough. I did not. Okay, so the instructions did say to use a 8mm drill bit, but I obviously use a 6mm just to get started. So, alright, here we go, 8mm time. Alright, so that first one looks like it's gone straight in. And then I just have to get the washer up on the other side of that bolt. Get that nut on. What the hell? There is no room here. We might just try the next one. The washer on the other side. There is room here to get your hands in. Alrighty, finally got one nut in. You sort of have to put your fingers up around this lip and then back in there in order to turn the nut, just to even get the thread started. But it's not the end of the world. Got that one done. Alright, time to drill some more holes. So I'm just going along, marking the positions of all the holes along the factory side skirt. Because now that I've got this held in up this end with at least one of the nuts, it's so much easier to keep the thing straight. Alright, so now that I've lowered the car back down, I can actually line up the front section because my jack was in the way. Alright, so that's all the holes marked now, the whole way along the factory side skirt. Now it's just a matter of jacking the car up again and drilling the holes all out. So, alright, let's go and drill some holes. Rightio, that's all the holes except for the front 2, and that's obviously because my jack is in the way. So I'm going to drop the front, jack the back up, and hopefully that gives me enough clearance at the front to then drill those holes, and then we should be done. Something I've noticed is I have to tidy up these holes. So see how there's a little bit of a lip that's sticking out from that hole? And same with that one there. By the time I put the bolt all the way through the hole, it's actually not long enough because this is sticking out further than it should. File those back a little bit so that everything sits nice and flush. There we go, so that one's turning. Just enough by hand at least, so that it means it's not going to fall. I've only got a couple of bolts holding it in at the moment, so obviously the back is still flopping down a little bit, but that's kind of the first look. Don't look down there. But from there, that looks pretty sweet. That's kind of like the first look at how it will look with it on. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, that's cool as. Nice. Alright, gonna go and put the rest of these nuts and bolts in. The instructions say to be careful for over tightening, but I think at this point it's pretty obvious that I'm not over tightening, considering this is still spinning. So I'm basically just tightening these all until the head of the bolt sticks out through the nylock nut to about the same distance, just to make sure that they're all even. There is no torque spec for these. The instructions were pretty specific about just do not over tighten. Alrighty, so that's the first skirt, lip, whatever you want to call it, all on, done up, tightened up. You can see there it's all quite level, quite even. And I do like this little touch here, the Flow logo. Alrighty, I have flipped the car around. We've now got the ramps on this side. I'm going to lift it up in the air and we're going to mark out the holes on this side and do the whole process all over again. Alrighty, that's all the holes done. Time for nuts and bolts. I just went for a quick drive this morning just to test drive and make sure that these have stayed on nice and solidly. And they have definitely stood up. There's no movement, no flex. Everything seems to be on there pretty nicely. Yeah, look at that. These look so good. Alrighty guys, I'm moving on to the spats now. So this is the rear pods, they're sometimes called, but in this case they've called them rear spats. I'm not sure why spats or what a spat is, other than that it's this piece. So this kind of sits in the rear corners and just kind of helps complete the body line from the new lips as it curves around that back corner. So this seems pretty straightforward. It's four bolts in each of these. I don't know if you can see those holes there. So I don't see this taking more than about 10 or 15 minutes, hopefully. Fingers crossed. Alright, so these spats look really nice. It looks like it's got this, cut-out channel, which would stick to the factory bumper. And obviously those bolt holes is where you drill, some holes to put the supplied bolts through. But I like the fact that there's a little channel here that's already cut out, so you can't really put it in the wrong position. Okay, so the way these lips are designed, there's this kind of cutout section here. And you can see at the very end there's like this lip. It's actually really smart because that lip is what you hold up against the edge of the factory bumper. So there's really only one place these can go. So this one's actually like, there's two layers of the skin here. There's like the bumper that you see, and then there's an extra skin behind it. So, try and line that up. Alright, so now that I've drilled those 6mm pilot holes, I'm going to go ahead and drill them out to 8mm. Alright, let's get this, oh, my neck hurts. I'm holding my head up. Alright, so I have to make sure I use the right bolts and washers. So this is a thick washer on the bottom here, as well as on the top. For the very front one there. Look at that. This is so much easier than the side skirts because you can actually reach everything here. This is so easy. There we go, and I'll get one of these back ones in, so the back one has to be one of the longer bolts. So we have longer bolt, big washer, into the bolt hole, into the car, then little washer on top, and then a nut. There we go, that's pretty good. It's staying on by itself already. We'll do the other front one. Flat washer on the bottom and flat washer on top. And nut on top as well. And then the last rear one. Big washer on the bottom. Little washer on top. Oh, I see why. There's like fins in the plastic, so a big washer wouldn't fit on the top there. And now we simply tighten everything down. So I'm happy with that. Everything lines up pretty well already, which is nice. I didn't have to change any of the holes. I didn't have to elongate any of the holes, which I had to do a little bit with the side skirts, just because I guess I didn't measure correctly the first time. But anyway, this all went in pretty smoothly. So I can still actually move this one by hand a little bit, which I wasn't expecting. So definitely want to make sure that, you know, things are tight but not too tight. So I think the fact that I can still wiggle this by hand is probably still not tight enough, in my opinion. All right, so that was super easy. That was less than 10 minutes for that side. I'll have the other one done in about the same. But let's have a quick look at what that looks like. That looks really nice. I can't believe that that's my car. So, all right, gonna move on to the other side now for the rear spat. I lost me nut. Man, I've got to say, having the pre-drilled holes has been a lifesaver. Like, body kit work is not something that I've ever done much with or know a lot about, but the fact that I can just get this kit, slap it straight in, just drill the holes exactly where it says, man, I'm stoked with that. That saved a major headache. Okay, so all the bolts are in. Now it's just a matter of tightening them all down. Whew. Oh man, that makes such a difference having the side skirt and then the rear spat. So as it comes up to the wheel, there's that gap obviously, and then it's like that body line continues around that back corner. That looks so nice. I love this kit. So I'm in love with that lip kit. That's mad. It looks so good. That's probably it for today. I do have a front lip to go on. It's the matching flow front lip, but my driveway is a bit too steep at the moment, so I just want to figure out a way to build a little ramp or something to help me get out, because as it is, I scrape sometimes when I'm leaving my driveway. I also do have a rear valence diffuser that sits across here. Half of it has arrived, the other half is still coming. So once that arrives, I'll put that on as well. But for now, that's how we're leaving it with the side skirts and the rear spats. I'm stoked with that. If you like this video, make sure you drop a like, subscribe to the channel to see what happens in the next video, which is probably going to be the front and rear lips. So thanks for watching, guys. See you in the next one.